So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to do it a little differently than we usually do. I'm going to start why you might not want to buy this game. I don't have a VR headset. One of my kids, well, both of my kids do, and I had to play it on their Quest 2. So I'm not a VR gamer for the most part, but I had to have my son explain to me actually how to play the game.
What kind of headset do you have?
Quest 2.
Oh, the wireless?
Yes.
Okay.
And so to play this game, I had to buy it on Steam, gift it to my son, and then he had to explain to me that I had to use his virtual desktop on Steam and then launch the game from there. Mm-hmm. So I was wirelessly attached to his PC playing the game through the Quest 2. On top of that, with the prices of GPUs in the past couple of years, I have not upgraded his GPU in a long time. He's running an RX 580, which, at the time it was a decent card. But they've been, used for mining, so I just haven't upgraded yet. They will be getting new cards for Christmas. But so I jumped in the game, and first off, I will say it crashed a lot, all the time. I got past the tutorial, I got past the cemetery, and then all of a sudden, just crash after crash after crash. On top of that, the game was not made for the Quest 2, so all the controls were showing me to do things in the tutorial from the headset it was made for. So the buttons were not right. It took me probably an hour to get through the tutorial, because it kept showing me buttons that I didn't have. And it would be like, hold down the menu button. So I'd hit the menu button, and it would take me into the actual
Let me grab a controller.
VR menu.
So, is this the controller?
Yes.
So this is the controller.
Yes.
Which, see, I've had a different experience because I have a Rift S, and all the controls were perfect. It even shows the buttons in the correct place, in the correct order. Everything was 100% accurate.
Weird. Yeah, no, it was showing me like I think it was a Sony controller? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know why it was doing it, but I was like, okay, let me just try this button, see what happens, try this button, see what happens. But some of them were like, hold the menu button and then press the stick button to change your standing or sitting. And it would not let me get past. It took me 20 minutes to get past that one thing. I couldn't get into the game. I couldn't do anything.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really strange. But then once I did get past that, I did the first quest and got to the boss. And then all of a sudden it was just like crash. Log back in. Crash. And then it said, up next, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and wouldn't move past that. So I really didn't get very far in the game, but the whole point of this rant was if you have a little bit weaker hardware, and I know a lot of people aren't running the latest and greatest, especially with GPU prices the last couple of years, you may want to rethink whether you would want to buy this game or not, because you may end up not being able to play it.
And it may just be the headset too.
Could be.
Because I remember when I bought the Rift S, I had a GTX 1080, and it struggled a bit on some games. In other games, it was fine. I know that I had to turn off my monitors in order to play certain games in order to get them to run. I don't believe that I had this game at that time. Yes, I did, because I bought this game when in 2018 is I think when this game came out, and I remember I didn't have any issues whatsoever with it running or with the VR headset. Now, I also have an Oculus, the wireless Oculus as well. I've never tried it because I've got the Rift. I don't really have a reason to try it wirelessly. But if you have a Rift S and maybe some bad hardware, you might have a different experience.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, jumping into like the actual game, what I played of it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There were a couple things that I didn't care for, but I did read some reviews, but we'll get into that. So what do you want to start with as far as graphics, I guess?
The graphics were great. I
mean,
for a VR game, it's top notch. I mean, it doesn't get much better.
Yeah. And I'll say even on the RX 580, which is, now a bottom tier card, I thought it looked great as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it did. And again, I was running it wirelessly, virtual desktop, Steam, and it still looked great in the Oculus 2.
I'm actually surprised
Or the Quest 2.
that it worked at all
Yeah.
wirelessly. That's kind of crazy in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got the Rift S Pro and I have an RTX 3080, and I maxed the settings and it looks phenomenal. So as far as the quality of the graphics, everything looks great. It ran smooth. I didn't have any stuttering. The sound was great. Everything played very, very well in VR.
Yeah. And again, and even on the 580, it did actually run really smooth. When it played, I had no problems at all with the game. All right, so getting into the actual gameplay, the story, I'm going to go ahead and let you expound on that because I actually have no idea. So go ahead. Whatever you want to talk about as far as the game goes.
So the game itself is a typical Walking Dead affair. Zombies everywhere. There's a crafting system. You have a backpack. In order to you pick up items and you shove them over your left shoulder in order to get them in your backpack, and then to view what you have, you just pull it up, and then it brings up the backpack, and you can scroll through your backpack. There's limited space in your backpack. Crafting allows you to increase that storage. You can create new bandages. You can create weapons. The weapons have a durability, so you can only use them so many times before they break. So you want to have, a couple of weapons on hand at all times.
Now, how was that? Because that was one of the things in the tutorial, and then when I first started, that I really felt, and I'm kind of asking whether the durability of weapons was better in the real game than it was in the tutorial, because you could kill 3 things with something and it broke. I'm like, I have an axe at home and I can chop wood with it. The zombie skull is not going to break my axe in 3 hits.
That was just the tutorial.
Okay, all right.
So there's a bar on the weapon that decreases each time that you use the weapon, and once it gets to a certain point, it starts glowing red, and then you know that it's going to break in the next couple of hits.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't ever really use the axe. I mean, you can upgrade weapons, and there's epic weapons and things like that you can craft. I mean, as far as pistols and there's a bow and arrow and other things, I mean, you start off the game with a revolver. I mean, that's, for the most part, that's really all I used. I mean, a couple of times you could use a shotgun for the zombies that have the helmets, but you could also just chop their head off with a machete.
Gotcha.
So for the most part, it just used the one weapon. I used the revolver, and then I would use, I guess it was a meat cleaver type of weapon.
Okay.
And I found that the easiest way to kill a zombie is just to hold its head, and then just to hit it, and then you'll pretty much kill it every time.
Okay, gotcha.
Instead of trying to swing, and because it's all based off of your movement. So if you're just flailing around, you're actually going to flail around in the game, which is kind of interesting. So when you're trying to attack a zombie, you need to make sure that you kill it. Otherwise, it's going to bite you, and then you have to shake it off. One of the things that did annoy me about the game was the respawn rate, which was ridiculously high. You go into I guess a hotel, not a hotel, but a house. So you walk into the house, you clear out the zombies, you go to the next floor, you collect the stuff, you come back down, all the zombies have respawned.
Oh, that's weird.
So you got to kill them again. And the first time that I played it, I remember you got off on the little raft, you go talk to the lady, you walk through the streets, and there's the big bus, and then there's 2 zombies there. Well, you take those zombies out, and then I was like, oh, there's an alley back here. Well, I came back around, went to the alley, came back to the bus, and they had respawned already.
Wow, that is strange.
So
there's no leveling in the game, so it's not. No. I was going to say, well, it'd be nice if you could just stand there and farm zombies, but
I mean, I broke my weapon immediately because I was just running around. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go around and chop up zombies. That's not this type of game. This type of game is you want to sneak past, you want to avoid the zombies as much as possible, and you only want to fight when you have to. I mean, you can push the zombies and then run away, and that's pretty much all you do. There are times, obviously, where you're going to have to kill them, like if you go into a house and you need to get some sort of item or you want to search the house. Yeah, you probably need to clear them out, but for the most part, you just want to avoid the zombies, like in the show.
So I was reading some comments on the game on Steam, and people were talking about, and I noticed this too, the weapon weight, like how you have to swing it. And that was one of my complaints, even in the tutorial. Maybe I would have gotten used to it, but I feel like I was like really stabbing at stuff to actually.
No. So if you actually read the tutorial, it actually tells you not to do that.
Huh.
It says when you have a shiv or a small weapon, you need to go in kind of slow.
But even with the axe, like I swung the axe and it bounced off the zombie's head. And I'm like, okay, let me try it again. And I was like literally moving my whole body to try to kill the zombie.
Yeah, I just, during the tutorial, I would just grab it and just slowly move it, and it just went right in.
Why is that different?
I would get, it's got to be the speed, because it seems like there's a perfect, you can't go too slow, you can't go too fast. You have to swing it at a perfect speed. I didn't never really use two-handed weapons, like baseball bats or axes or anything. I always just used one-handed weapons and then the revolver. Gotcha. So anytime I would get close to it, I'd just grab its head and chop at it. And that's really how I would kill 90% of the zombies that I would come in contact with. Now, people, on the other hand, like the humans, yeah, I would just shoot them.
Gotcha.
There are some times where, the zombies would show up when they're shooting, and you can kind of run away, and then the zombies would kind of go toward them because they're making the most noise, which was interesting. There is a limit to how long you can stay out at a specific time. So the people who control the area, they ring a bell at, I think it was midnight or 10 or whatever time it was that they would ring the bell, and then the zombie horde would come out because they would make noise and they would clear the streets of people so they could go and take the resources. So you have a watch, and then the watch is timed to the bells, so you know how much time you've got. So basically how it would work was you would hold up your watch to see how much time you have left before the bells start ringing and night comes. The reason they do that is because they don't want you there the whole time, and you're supposed to scavenge and then go back to your base. Well, you want to try to get as much stuff done during that time frame as you can before you have to leave and go back and then go to sleep. Now, when you go to sleep, it removes resources from the game and it adds more zombies to the game. So you really have to min-max the time that you're out scavenging and collecting items and doing quests and things of that nature, because every time that you go back, there's less resources and more zombies.
Okay. I mean, that does sound interesting. I mean, more than just... Because then you have more of a story aspect to it than just running around killing zombies.
Yeah, I mean, the story was okay. It was nothing to write home about. It was a typical... typical story for a zombie game. It just, it was mostly about, surviving and killing zombies in virtual reality, which is fairly new. And it looks fantastic.
So. Yeah. And I can say, even just in that going through the graveyard, which is all the farther I got, the ambiance of it was really cool. The guy hanging, by his feet, and then he turns, I like walked away from him and I'm like, is he still alive? I thought he died. And I go back and he's a freaking zombie.
Yep.
I was like, that's really cool.
Yep.
It really, the atmosphere was great.
Well, the music and the sound. So if you have headphones on, you can actually, and they're good headphones, you can hear stuff behind you and you can turn around. So there's a lot of customization with the controllers. Like you can do the walk. You've got running. When you turn, you can either do turn smooth, or you can do the degree turn, where you can set it to like 15, 30, 45 or whatever to snap.
Funny enough, I that didn't work for me. I couldn't use the stick. I actually had to stand. I was going to sit down and play it. Just because I don't play VR, so I'm not used to all that walking.
Right.
I didn't want to fall on my ass, so I had to stand up and actually turn my body to turn the camera.
Oh yeah.
So I could walk forward and backwards, or strafe side to side, standing still. But I actually had to turn in a circle to move the camera. I could not use the thumbstick; it just didn't do anything.
Huh.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what was wrong with it.
Something was really messed up.
Yeah, so. Not sure. But, once I figured that out, because going through the tutorial, I'm like moving and I'm looking, but I'm not moving my body. And then all of a sudden it clicked and I'm like, oh, I actually have to turn that direction and then I can walk forward again. So, yeah, strange, but...
Yeah. Very interesting.
So what your overall assessment of the game, would you tell somebody to buy it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great. If you're trying to get into VR, this is one of the must-haves. This is one of the. I would say there's probably 5 or 6 VR games that everybody should start out with. This is definitely one of them. Right. So some of the games that I would recommend: Half-Life Alyx, Beat Saber is really good if you're just getting started because it kind of teaches you how to do all the motions. I Expect You to Die is really funny. Lone Echo, but that's only for Meta, I forget whatever they want to call it, Facebook, Meta, whatever they want to call themselves now. That's specific to there. That's the only place you can get it, but it is very, very good. So if you have an Oculus or a Rift, I would highly recommend that game. It's very, very good. They actually have a second one that has either come out or is coming out. Arizona Sunshine is probably another one. It's like a Walking Dead type of game. Okay, that'll wrap it up for our review of Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Until next time.
See ya.